must go on because I have to tell you, we are having an interesting evening today with technology. Before I met with Scott for our pre-production meeting and hanging out in the green room, I was out raking leaves and jumping in those leaves. I had leaves in my hair. I had to shake off and come on back inside and get ready, put on a little bit of lipstick and get some water. Didn't even have time to get hot tea, and it turned out I needed something even stronger than hot tea. I really need a shot of something because this is, I think, our third time starting this tonight. And
Third
it needs
times.
charm. Scott, I need you to drink some extra scotch for me.
Okay. Well, it's a tough assignment. You know, the, I've heard of the Scott treatment, but this is ridiculous.
I know you're
Hmm.
only 20 miles away. Wait, more like 13 miles away, but that's a little too far since you're the one with the liquor.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my
Anyway,
gosh. Well,
yeah, so we're excited to be here tonight, and we have a great program ahead of you. And one of the things that we were thinking about is when we're doing our Hangouts on air, what are some of the things we should be thinking about? And so before we get too far in, Scott, are you ready to play our intro?
this is always high drama, right?
It
Let's
is.
see what happens.
I don't think anything is as high drama as what we just went through.
Blue box? Hey,
All right.
I think it worked this time.
I like this whole Prezi introduction thing. Way to go, Scott. That's a
It
cool.
it it makes it easier than, falling off a log. There we go. And it kind of illustrates the point too about our topic. Why don't you get the topic started rolling, and then I'll kick in when you tell me to.
And I think that's great because realistically, for Hangouts on Air, what we are excited about is that it's a big opportunity to explore and try new things. And we have to have a little bit of transparency. We have to be willing to have some technical difficulties. We have to be willing to put ourselves out there a little bit in a place of uncomfortable because even when we think we're getting comfortable, something crazy might happen, just like this evening. And so we're going to talk about some tips and tricks and maybe some etiquette and maybe some quick get back up on the horse kind of things when everything seems to not be going the way that you want, but you know there's a benefit. And ultimately, you do have a benefit, and that is to provide content that is of value to your audience. And if you're connecting to your audience effectively, that's the way. That is the biggest opportunity with video, and a reason why I wanted to choose this topic for one of our shows. Now, Scott, before you weigh in, I just wanted to remind everybody, please check in on our event page. Have an opportunity if you have your own tips, if you have your own video ideas, if you have something that really helped you or somebody that you look up to when it comes to planning your Hangout on Air. We would like to see them there, and we may even showcase and highlight them on our program. So we'll be watching the event pages.
So, a couple things. When you say our website, I think you specifically mean our event page.
Thanks, yes.
And I think that people can search for our event page. If they're here through an invitation, then that invitation will naturally lead them to our event page. You can check it out, and we'll be monitoring it. And if you have a comment or a question, we'll do our best to incorporate it within our program. You said something earlier, Jess, about transparency, and what flashed in front of me was we did a number of these hangout on airs without really telling anyone because we wanted to get comfortable and those sorts of things, and not feeling that there was going to be anyone watching. I think you and I won't speak for you, I got into the habit of just literally letting my hair down a little bit and being more of myself than I am, sometimes even in real life. So here I am, uh, going along, minding my own business, and I get a Hangout video call from are my mentor, someone that I know you admire as well.
I'd call him
Seemingly,
a mentor.
hmm,
I said I'd call him a mentor too.
yeah, our mentor, our fearless leader. Well, Ronnie Bincer's our fearless leader. He's our mentor. Out of the blue, and I went over to the computer, and here's Ray Hiltz who's calling me, and he's watching. He's had a long, hard day, like maybe you have, Jess, and thought he thought I'm going to just sit down and I'm going to watch the Jess and Scott show, and he started watching it, and I didn't want him to see it. I was just having fun with you, right? And
Yeah.
I, quite frankly, I didn't think that you're going to make it public. So, and he said it's great, and I'm turning red in the face, and I'm saying, but I'm so vulnerable. And he said that's the key, and there was a thing that clicked in me, and I said, I've only got a few more years in this life. I don't have to worry about things. I don't mind being on the internet and just giving my information. I'm careful, but giving my information and having a big footprint. My son, now he's got an entire life ahead of him, and people are going to look back and see what we're doing nowadays, and they're going to say, "My, aren't they quaint?" in terms of how we approach the internet and everything that's going on. So, for younger people, I can see where they need it, but I don't have anything to lose anymore. I can just sit back and be myself and let the chips fall where they may. And
Okay, that's really funny. So does that mean I have something to lose?
you have more to lose than I do.
No.
Because only because I'm going to be around a lot less longer than you, but I also have a lot to gain. And in the end, if we're able to make real contact with real people, and that means be vulnerable and allow the power of the image. We're going to have a show coming up about the still photography and how important that is. Well, this is if an image is worth 1,000 words, what is a video? What is the body language and the eye contact that we can have? So that's the power of these Hangouts. If you don't have good, well, I'll,
So
I'm going to
that's
throw it
cool.
back
And
to you. I
yeah,
said what
that's
I
a good
needed.
segue. And so I think that when we're thinking about video, it's really, you know, we still have to have a message and we still have to have a plan. And so even for our show, what did we do in our practice before we were accidentally discovered by Ray Hill? Right? Right? We had pre-production meetings. We decided what were we going to talk about. In fact, some of our pre-production meetings should have been the actual hangout, and we kind of figured that out. So we talk a little less and we plan a little more, and all of the magic actually happens here for you in a very authentic way. And I think what Scott was talking about is really spot on. That a vulnerability or uncomfortable or whatever word you want to put in there, transparency, it doesn't even matter. What matters is that it is a way to connect in real life, in the moment, through a medium that, at least with Scott and I, we're having this conversation, and you as our viewers get to watch, and you as our viewers get to actually engage with us through our event page and participate if you would like to, in addition to the follow-up conversation that exists as we're going through as we're providing content that can be used by you and by us in other mediums and in other ways. So when we're thinking about videos, Scott, let's talk about. I don't want to go too much into the basics about a hangout or any of that kind of stuff because there are a lot of great hangouts about that. There are a lot of great resources for that. But we do have to think about, if you just go to the Hangout on Air channel and you're just looking to see, there's this huge, wide variety of lighting, setting, well, you name it, it could be exciting or it could be not so exciting. And it affects what we're doing and it affects how we perceive the message that's going to be coming across. And so, Scott, what do you think are some of the minimum production requirements that we really need to keep in mind that are truly set and forget? We figure
Yeah,
them out, we know what they are, we can reproduce them with a checklist every single hangout.
yeah. Very good, Jess. And you always bring it back home and you always bring it back into reality. So once you're past the making contact um, with your audience, you don't want to sabotage yourself because of technology, which is entirely avoidable if you plan well enough. And in my book, the number one thing that you can do in order to have a great hangout is to have good audio. Because if your audio is bad, it is just almost impossible for someone not to get really irritated at you. The worse the audio, the more their interest is in what you are saying in order for them to stay. If it's kind of, I have a choice between really struggling to understand this person because the audio is too echoey or for too staticky or whatever, then if I have a choice between that and something else, I'm going to go to that something else every time. There's a reason why
Exactly.
you know. So, and that's anti-intuitive because you think that it is video, but people are far more forgiving of that, especially nowadays when they realize that these are, you know, not broadcast professional broadcasts, so they'll have the context. The next thing is,
Well, before you do that, can I jump in?
okay,
Because I wanted
yeah,
to articulate a difference even just between you and I. That
sure,
is, I don't wear a headset of any kind. Sometimes you will see me with little earbuds in, and I
yeah.
actually don't even have any within reach. But Scott, you do. And some of that is personal preference. And some of that is the equipment that we've chosen to achieve the best sound quality that we think fits for our show and our audience. And so I just like to say there's more than one way to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you have your laptop and you use the laptop microphone, that might work. But it's that minimum. Take an earbud or do as you've done. You've got a great microphone that's just off camera, right?
Not anymore.
Oh, look at that.
Ooh,
Hey,
yeah,
I
no,
see.
snowball.
That that is so cool. That is so cool. So you attended to the audio that way, and that's good. Incidentally, one of the reasons why I wear headsets is for aesthetic purposes. I think that I look, if not more handsome, at least less weird if I've got glasses and I've got these headsets on.
Oh, Scott, I was not expecting that to come out of your mouth.
What?
Less weird. You do not. Sorry, I totally stole your thunder with my laughter.
No, no. In fact, you honor me with your laughter.
Well,
There's
thank
a
you.
story behind that as well in terms, but not for now. That would be too self-indulgent. So so audio. I think we've made that point.
Yep. But
But
so it
it's
goes right into setting, is what you were talking about. Aesthetically, now you're thinking, okay, so that was your segue from the audio into what does your set look like and how does that help you in terms of making that connection?
people will only know what you show them. So I've got my set, you've got your set. Nobody knows where, I think they could probably figure out that this is my home office, but where and what is the setting and is there a mess next to this? Unless I show you, the branding that I have is here, and I've been pretty careful to have it a certain way. I don't know if it's great or not, but this is what I've done. You've done exactly the same thing. I love that picture behind you. It's just perfect.
I have a
And
couple spots in my office that you'll see me.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
yeah, those
Hmm.
sorts of things. So that's a good point. Lighting. It doesn't have to be real fancy lighting, and nowadays there are, color balanced light bulbs that are out there that are $5 or $7. When I was doing public access, community access television in the 80s and 90s, we would purchase studio lights and they were 40 and 50 and $60 each. One was $120 each. That's what was the standards at that time, and that's why people didn't do much video unless, well, that's another rant of mine. So so get lighting, and the secret to lighting is you have some lighting over here and you have some lighting over there and you have some lighting behind you, and you know don't make it too bright. Make sure it's got the right bulb to it, and you're probably good to go. Just get that light volume up. I don't know why intelligent people who've got great things to say and who really care about their message will sit in front of a window
Or,
during the daytime
yeah,
because they're
exactly.
backlit. The
Mm-hmm.
brightest thing in the frame is the
The light.
window.
That's right. You look like exactly just like that secret shape, like you're being interviewed by the CIA or something in one of those TV shows, right? And the other thing too is sometimes it's the overhead light. Like right above every place I sit, there are overhead lights, and if I'm not very careful, I end up with shadows here, which makes my face look really big, and I get a little self-conscious about stuff like that. And so the lighting actually was the hardest part for me to get consistently over time. But once I figured it out, I can now reproduce it. I mean, the other part is my lights, they go away when I'm not on air because my I don't want to leave them up. And if you're in a place where you can actually leave your yeah, oh, go Scott.
Yeah.
You better talk so you can be on the main screen there
Oh,
and
okay.
show off your
Actually, this is what my office looks like when I turn my studio, my 995 lights off. That doesn't look too bad, does it?
it looks all right, but you're a little I can't see your face. It makes me want to get closer to the screen and see you. Um, and
All
so
right, all right. I give up.
Thanks.
You win.
Thanks. So
You
you
win.
know what? I would say it was passable, but you had already set the bar too high. Is my
Oh,
problem. If you
I
come in
thought.
that way, right? I would have been
Okay.
like, okay, I get it, I get it. But now you had already raised the bar pretty high for me.
I
So
thought I was setting the mood. So,
well, there is that along at like what is it, 5:15 or something, restaurants will start turning down their lights. There is something. So if you have an evening show, your lighting actually might be different than if you have a daytime show.
and then there's one more tip in terms of Hangouts on Air, and that is that everyone is going to be watching on a small screen. Very few people are going to be watching on a big screen. Even if they do, this is still a good tip. In real life, you can engage someone and be pretty laid back, but on the small screen there, you have to do something in order to survive that treatment. So somehow get enough energy up, excuse me, on this side of the camera so that when it's transmitted then on the other side, that that it makes up for the small, semantically less dense screen that you're
So are you
seeing.
talking about like if I sit way back here versus
No, well, yeah, what you're doing. You're making my point because there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of excitement in what you're doing. You're not just kind of sitting there being an automaton talking about some conference way back on, there's a Star Trek Next Generation episode that had Picard talking about this conference that was, when so and so was being so boring when he was, and then, time time stopped. What was that, Michael? Oh, we've got the disc. Well, we would show you an excerpt of it, but then YouTube would kill us. Or
oh yeah, there
actually,
is that.
it's your channel, so I don't care.
Well, I care. So thanks, Michael. Everybody, we might have to just post which DVD it is on our
There we
notes.
go. There we
Oh,
go.
good. Yes. Thank you for the screenshot.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
I wonder if this would be a good time for us to, we have some illustrations of
Let's do
some
it.
great Hangouts on air. So these are all kind of excerpts of Hangouts, and let's see if they work.
Okay.
I need to find my cursor. This is the reason why they call it a cursor is because sometimes you want to curse it.
Well, and while you do that, I'll talk about the setting and actually, it's really interesting. Every time you see me, you'll see me with different lipstick on. I don't wear a lot of makeup, but I always put on lipstick before I come on a hangout on here because otherwise I look really washed out, and it's just it's the lighting compared to my skin tone, and I need a little bit of contrast so people can actually
Very
see.
nice.
It's like you being in the dark, Scott, under a bright light, so nobody can see your face.
Just don't ask me to put lipstick on or
I
wear a
promise.
scarf.
Hey, speaking of though, nice tie.
Oh, thank you. Nice scarf.
Thank you. I think the Davids would be proud.
Well, you
David,
see, this is
one
a
hangout
test.
for you.
Because if David and he, you know if it's you that we're talking about, we'll know if you're watching tonight because you'll
That's right.
comment.
I want you to shout out. This one has flowers on it. I love
Yeah,
stars actually. So for
this
those of
this
you who are
this one has lines in it. Okay,
okay,
so
video excerpt. Here we go.
I love this guy. If this is the right one, it's a blank screen. This guy just uh, l- it just lets it all out and has a lot of fun with his Hangouts. They're very dense in terms of the content, but he's known to have some fun as well.
And I understand we're going to talk about Google Plus and its impact on SEO today. And I understand it can make me rich. So I have one question for you. Where's me Google Plus treasure?
Arr.
Arr.
So anyway, and that's how he started his program, and it started off so well that the rest of it just went swimmingly well as well. And they talked about SEO and all sorts of stuff that you and I think are
Mm-hmm.
really interesting.
Right on. Well, and you know, one of the reasons that's the personability of that, the articulation of doing something fun that's engaging, is especially through videos because 90% of all information that comes into our brain is visual, and it is necessary for us to be able to filter different things. Excuse me, everybody, my glasses look crooked. Speaking of sets, anyway, but you know, and I'm not a very visual person, so when I hear statistics like that, all of this is really great information for me since my primary mode of communication is not visual at all. I mean, I was telling somebody once, and well, I don't mind putting it out there in the world. I only notice when my husband goes through phases where he's got
Yeah.
facial hair and where he shaves his, then he'll be smoother, he'll have facial hair, and I won't notice that he has shaved off his facial hair until he kisses me. I'm that we're walking around the house, we see each other, we hug until he kisses me. I don't even know. And so I know there are other people out there like me, and when we're thinking about how do we incorporate video, this show is actually really for you because these are the tips that non-visual people don't think about, and even visual people go, well, I can do it because somebody else is doing it. But if you want to stand out, if you want to raise the bar, and if you want to do something that is going to be something that people will remember and want to talk about and share, we might have to step out of our comfort zones and what comes naturally to us. So mine was an extreme example, but at the same point in time, we do have to think about how do we step out and take advantage of what video has to bring with the amount of visualness that comes in so that you get that three-dimensional piece.
Yeah. Step out of your comfort zone is what you said until you be and just be yourself. Is that
Oh,
what you said? And the funny thing is that once you do it enough, once it becomes a habit, you can be yourself and magically you're in your comfort zone. You're in your comfort zone and you're being yourself. I mean, you're being yourself without losing control. People can still be themselves and still brand themselves in a particular way. And I've got a great example.
let's
Uh,
do that.
this person, if I'm remembering correctly, okay, cursor, 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 there we go. This person is very comfortable within her skin and always has a fun time. I just have to, there we go. Yeah.
Those of us who've been around for the full 2 years know that the changes happen regularly, and whenever a big change comes, there's glitches. So we roll with the punches. In the beginning, I used to get really frustrated, like I would back in the day when I used Facebook. But now it's Google Plus. We roll with these punches. We just do it. We know something good is coming, a big change is coming, and we just accept it. So
Well, what did you call it, Rand or Ronnie? A disturbance in the force? Yeah.
Which is Star Wars. Well, we've already clearly established we all love Star Wars. That's a perfect analogy for it too. I would say from everyone's perspective, it really it's just not to get overwhelmed by it, but just to go with the flow. And I think that's the first thing when you're in any of the industry or the industries that we work in, that you cannot get all all butthurt about changes. It's there for a reason.
So there you go.
And that's
Go
why
ahead.
I like rolling with the punches, right? Rolling with the punches. So when we're thinking about most of us being visual learners, when we're thinking about because we're visual learners, not me, but most people, we take some things for granted, and then being willing to roll with whatever things come your way. You know, what that allows with our brains is to make that connection and filter information faster and quicker and see what that emotional connection is. And there's so much information that can be combined in all of the elements of video that makes it a much more dense experience.
Yeah. I mean, I know that visual cues are important to me. Uh, it, it's amazing that you and I are both visually, I wouldn't say challenged, but we're not falling within the norm. I don't dream in color, and I was surprised to learn that people had vivid colors. And think I, I don't think in visual components in the same way I'm told other people do. So what the heck are you and I doing this for? I have a good friend who
Maybe
is,
helping ourselves. I don't
well,
know.
we're helping ourselves. Well, because there's more than just the visual, or the visual is
Yeah.
so dense that it overcomes whatever anomalies that might be with you and me. We still get most of our information through. I mean, you're the one who taught me this. You want to make a big point? You know what I'm going to do, don't you? Yeah. You want to make a big point? You get really close to the camera, don't you? Right? That's
Well,
visual.
but
You,
then there's your way, which is just like, so there. Both, I think, have equal impact.
oh man.
Wow, we've started acting like each other, everybody. So, well, okay, so one of the things, do you have any hangout pet peeves? What are one or two of your hangout pet peeves?
Well, my biggest, I guess, is the lit window behind. A second is the improper headroom. So people will just position their camera, any old way that they want to, right? Come on.
Right?
Usually it's something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How many Hangouts have you been to that look like that? And then what they'll do is, bear with me, please. I don't know if I can pull this off as quickly as I'd like to, but I think I can. So they'll go like that, and they'll go like that, and we'll call something like that up, and like that. Have I got my lower thirds on yet?
No.
Well, okay, we've got a new lower third. Okay, well, I'm not gonna waste precious time trying to come up with it, but they'll have a lower third, so now their chin
So
is.
they look like that guy from, what is it, Tool Time? Tim the Tool Man? What show was that?
I don't know, but this is the Kilroy. Kilroy was here, right?
Yeah.
From World War II, but that kind of is before your time,
That's way before my time.
and mine too. I would like to add, but can I can I get this back down to normal now? You see what I've done is I've taken the fourth wall and I've violated that because you've seen something that I didn't want to show you necessarily because there's something above the curtain that's behind me,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So
Well, we can look at baby pictures of Michael. He's already inserted himself into our show this evening, which is an awesome cameo. So you'll have to tell
yes,
him an extra special thank you.
I
Uh,
am surprised. Yeah.
that's very cool. Uh, well, and one of my pet peeves is, well, and we don't do this because there are only two of us, but on panels, when people don't mute themselves. So here somebody's making this great point, they're really engaged, you're in what they're saying, and somebody taps their screen or hits the keyboard, and then you don't see the person talking anymore. Oh, it affects the presentation. It's
You
like
know what?
saying or ah.
So the your first pet peeve. What I do for a living is I edit, among other things, I edit Hangouts on air, and I had one that I was doing the other day, and a person was talking and they made the best point in the world, and someone else in the film strip laughed at it, and I couldn't hear what that point was, but it was one of those golden nugget moments that you just would want to capture. And I ended up disliking this person in the film strip who kept on interrupting because every time something interesting happened, he stepped on the guy's line. In terms of the uhs and the ahs, I love those. I can't get enough of those because that's my bread and butter. I edit out the uhs and the ohs and the you knows, and people pay good money for that. So,
Yes, they do.
and it's amazing. Someday I'll put together a video that shows someone who is humming and awing and then taking those out, and it's entirely different. The person who doesn't and ah has more authority and is coming across 100 times better than someone who's doing all the time. So I
Well,
think
and
I
look at the body language with that too, Scott, because somebody who is using does not have the same body language as somebody who does not use that. They tend to, so I'm not going to give it away, but there is a physical difference of how they take up their space, their actual physical space. Uh, oh,
so the way to cure it for anyone, incidentally, is that you go into you have a bet
oh,
with someone. Did I step on your line?
no, you odd
I know
with
I
the
did.
bell.
We're going to be we're going to be self-conscious. You say you'll give me, I'll give you 5 ahs during a hangout on air, and for every additional that you have, you're going to give me $5. So
Hmm.
you can do an but it's just going to cost you money. And that, for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be $5. It could be 25 cents. It could be 10 cents. That seems to, for some people, break them of the habit of saying, they will pause. And pausing to think about what you want to say is perfectly legitimate. In fact, people will become compelled, if you don't overuse it, to figure out what you're going to say next, right?
There is a dramatic effect and a presentation opportunity there. You, you know, and that's for, I actually like that for visual people. For not visual people, I think it's, there's a different approach because I'm auditory. That's my primary learning, so I hear that. So all I have to do is go, oh, that doesn't sit well with the presentation that I want. So I actually videotape myself and I watch myself, and then I practice a few times, and then I'll videotape myself and I will watch myself. So these hangouts are kind of like an in real time personal evolution of Jessica presentation. And that's one element that I use as far as what what these hangouts do for me. But I also use them for content. The whole reason for this, and one of the things we're going to be talking about, is how do you pull out snippets and make content that you can talk about over time, that as things change and uh, oh, I did it again, things come into fashion and things go out of fashion, our focus changes but the message stays the same. And so how do we bring some of that emphasis back over time? Now, what I see, you have something else queued. What's queued next for you, Scott?
Well, this is our great friend David Leopold, who's interviewing Brooke. And this is it Brooke or Brooks? I can't remember. Brooke, I
Ballard.
think. Ballard. And so I'm not going to play the entire thing, but I enjoy the way that he introduces her. I enjoy the energy between them. I hate the window behind her. So we won't watch the entire thing, but we'll watch some of it. Okay?
Good afternoon, and this is Small Biz David, and I want to read something first, and then I will introduce our featured entrepreneur. Brooke is an exceptional educator and consultant on social media. Brooke is easy to communicate with. Thank you for being that way, Brooke. Very responsive and goes above and beyond to help out. Brooke's in-depth knowledge and friendly attitude makes her an absolute pleasure to work with. Shara Shelton from USA Technologies had to say that about Brooke. And Brooke, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today to celebrate entrepreneurship. What are you going to do on the panel with all these guys, Brooke?
Oh, bring it on. I'm not scared. I was a tomboy growing up. And not to get off on a whole nother tangent, but it took the social penetration theory, which basically says that we as human beings form communities and relationships.
Okay, can we unblue box and go from there? Because it goes on from there, but so many of the things that we're talking about were in that video. Uh, I think both of them were being themselves. They were having a lot of fun. Certainly, they the video was not all that great with and it kind of broke up, but that was forgiven. There's that there's that light behind. What did you notice about that? That clip in particular, Jess?
I like David's radio voice.
Yeah.
But because of how he uses his radio voice, I think there's a little bit more testing that could go on with how the volume of his control and how does that come across. Oh, I did it again. I'm gonna watch this as a self-improvement video after we're done.
You're allowed 20 ums per hour, so you're okay.
Thank you. You increased my number. Anyway, so one of the things, and realistically, here's the thing. Somebody is going to be watching this, and we're giving these ideas, and we have our own pet peeves, and somebody's probably going, "Will you do that too? Will you do that too? Will you?" So we can't be perfect, but what we can be is we can be consistent, and we can continue to try and change up a little bit at a time to improve and improve, to raise our own bar, and to set the standard. And as long as a lot of people I don't think rewatch what they've done for their Hangout on Airs, and I think that's something that's really important.
It's painful for some people.
It is, but you know what? Even though I think I sound like a mouse, I still have to watch my presentation. You should have seen me 5 years ago and how fast I talk. The fact that you actually understand me has taken so much practice, Scott.
I did not know. I did not know that you actually would videotape yourself and watch your how you present yourself. That's what they say that you're supposed to do. I don't know if I've ever met anyone who actually has really done that. So you continue to just astound me. Every week you come up with something different, and this week is not a disappointment. So
Right on. Well, and maybe depending on if you have another video or not, maybe we should go to that video or we could go straight into the +2 takeaway.
I was just wondering about that as well, and we won't have a +2 takeaway open or close, but what we can do.
Extraneous noise. I am unprepared. Yet another
Okay.
pet peeve. So if we're going for the show of pet peeves and things not to do in addition to things to do, oh wait, that's not even the sign. Right color, wrong thing. Have your props ready because they don't have to be technologically advanced, but they do have to be able to be within reach.
Ta-da! Okay, I think I'm ready with. It's kind of fun when we don't have technical difficulties, isn't it?
It is. I'm so glad.
Yeah, and you're blue boxing as well. Let's see here. Do as you please. If you don't.
No, that's good.
Yeah, whatever.
Everything's
Okay.
blue box. So we're talking about tips for using video, and I snagged 5 things that I thought we should keep in mind. And the first is message. And the pictures that I used, see if you can figure out the pictures that I used and how that relates back to what I'm trying to say. Because how we say things, what what we do to present those things, all of that is important in terms of setting that experience. Video can be a true experience. Now, in planning your message, what do you want that video to be? Is the opening going to be for engaging, for educating, for selling or taking an immediate action or some other myriad of opportunities. So you've got to be able to plan and know what is that message going to be, and then how do your props, how does the wording that follows that introduction naturally progress into a story. Then the second thing is actually telling that story. Is there a narrative? Can you create an experience that allows people to relate? Can you add depth to the concept? The whole idea of video is that you've got the visual aspect, you have the audio, the auditory aspect, and if you're using things like movement in presentations like this, thanks God, you're actually enhancing this right now, right? You're keeping people connected, and they're like, well, what's happening next? And of course, most importantly is it's got to be simple, and it's got to be all about your audience. And it's not going to be about all of your target audiences. It's going to be about some segment or segments that you're focusing on. That's one thing I think that people could actually really also benefit from when they're thinking about video is you might have many videos, and all of those videos do not cater to all of your audience. They cater to very specific pieces of your audience. And so you have the opportunity to further connect and build relationships one target segment at a time. Knowing that customer really makes a difference. And talking to just one group of customers at a time or potential customers at a time, there is value in that. The third thing is, how do you plan your setting? And Scott and I talked about some of our pet peeves and some of the things that we liked, and everything from what you're wearing, what your lighting is, how your audio is, how close you're going to be, or how far away you're going to be, or you're going to accidentally slide right out of the screen, whatever that is going to be, how does that actually support and enhance your message without taking it away? The fourth thing is actually then getting that video. Is it going to be a Hangout on air first? Is it going to be just a small video? Is it going to be a Prezi presentation that has a voiceover? What is it going to look like? And then the very last thing is, how can you make it evergreen? What is the opportunity to take this and then repurpose it, whether that's reference a blog post about it, whether that's snip out a segment that is really relevant to one idea, whether that's creating some sort of a visual question and answer. There's so many opportunities there, again, depending on the audience and the purpose of the message, for there to be evergreen content to come back to. And that's actually something that will help with search. The longevity of being around and having that staying power and having that relevance to be used over and over and over again starts to impact other parts of the marketing message. So video carries a lot of bang for the buck. And those are, and I said 5 steps, but really it should have been 5 things to consider when you start using video. And then of course you just got to take off your floaties. Well, maybe you put your floaties on and just jump in. I know some people call them water wings. I call them floaties.
Very nice. Have you unblue boxed? I
Yes.
guess you have. So very good. Wow. I so appreciate the fact that you're the one who does the +2 takeaway every week, and I learn something new, and I just sit back and feel that this is good stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. We make a good team. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into my closing, and then I'll let you respond to that. So when we're thinking about video, one of the things that I learned that I actually found very interesting that I did not know, and I'm going to read, so I'm not going to look at the screen here for a minute, that by using video, there becomes a 24% increase in brand favorability. So if you have a brand and you have a following and you're not doing video, you are missing out on an opportunity to connect just by the nature of the object video. And there was one survey that I found that said that when somebody watched a brand's video, 30% of those somebodies went to the brand's homepage. 26% refound that brand going to the website from a search engine, and 7% actually took action and started following on some or multiple social media sites. What that tells me is that there's a real opportunity to use video as part of our sales funnel and as part of our overall mesh to connect with people when they want to connect, where they want to connect, and it's our job to be there to get them the information in that time and in that space.
So, what is the trajectory of marketing and how people get their information, how they want to get their information, and they'll be making their decisions going forward? Is video a fad? And can you imagine in the year 2020, people are going to not have televisions particularly or monitors in their life, and the smartphones and how they're using the smartphones, that's not going to be very prominent, that they'll look back on us in 2013 and think, oh wow, how silly they were to use all of this technology. What we're doing is, and then you think, what else is there? These are 21st century skills. These are 21st century ways of communicating. And if you learn them now, they're going to hold you in good stead 5 and 10 years from now. If you don't learn them now, then 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to learn them then, or you're going to be left behind like the people who, gee, I'd like to be on the computer, but I just don't know anything about it, are today. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of that type of news, but that's what your closing comments inspired me to say, Jess. So I don't know if that says more about you or more about me, but
Let's see. If I were to say,
so there.
if I were to, so there, I like it. If I were to summarize what you said, now is the time to get on board because the longer you wait, the harder it is to learn and the harder it is to make a presence because you're doing nothing but playing catch up.
And since we're all learning together now, and we're going to forgive each other. Remember, well, you might not remember when email first came out, we all kind of struggled with it, and there's a lot of tolerance. But nowadays, man, if you type everything in all caps and you don't realize that that's shouting and that's bad etiquette, so there's a window of opportunity to learn it on a no-fault learning. After that, man, you just got to get it, and if you don't get it, you're going to be not getting it.
Crazy world of customer expectations.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Nothing changes, does it?
nothing changes. That's right. It's always going to be something. So
Yeah.
I want to say thank you everybody for joining us this evening. If you do have any closing comments or you want to add something to the event page after we conclude tonight, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much. Next week, we have a special guest, Brenda, who is going to talk to us about still photography. So stay tuned for the invite and the announcement about her joining us. And I want to say, Scott, as always, it's a pleasure. We make a great team, and I look forward to seeing everybody at another Hangout. The Jess plus Scott plus you show.